When she went into early labor, she called her husband, crying from the hospital bed. Instead of rushing to her side, he smirked and said, "Perfect timing. You can sign the divorce papers before the baby arrives." As her body trembled from contractions, he stood at the foot of her bed, cold, impatient, and cruel, forcing a pen into her shaking hand. "Sign it before you scream again. I don't have all night." He thought it was the end of her story. He didn't know that the same golden pen she used to sign those divorce papers would one day sign documents that changed her life and his fate forever. This is the story of a woman mocked in her weakest moment, yet reborn in her strength. The story of Emma Reed, the wife he humiliated in labor, and the mother who rose from betrayal to power. Hi family, welcome back. Before we begin, please click subscribe. Every single click helps us tell stories of courage and truth. And in the comments, tell us where you're watching from. Because when we share these stories together, we remind each other that even in pain we can rise. The sound of shattering glass broke the quiet of dawn. Emma Reed flinched, her hand instinctively covering her swollen belly. The baby kicked beneath her palms, sharp, sudden, almost as if startled too. Her husband, Marcus Reed, stood over the marble counter, jaw tight, holding the stem of a broken tumbler. Amber whiskey dripped down the white cabinets like slow tears. "You burned the toast again," he said flatly, not shouting, but somehow his calm voice cut sharper than a scream. "How hard is it to make breakfast, right?" Emma's voice trembled as she reached for a cloth. "I'm sorry, Marcus. I'll make another one. I'll make it perfect this time." Her tone wasn't fearful, it was weary, practiced, the kind of softness that grows from years of trying to keep peace. She bent down despite the weight of her pregnancy, careful not to slip, and cleaned up the preputable, spilled whiskey. On the glossy kitchen counter lay a magazine, Elite Homes Weekly. On its cover, a photo of the same couple, smiling under bright lights, Marcus and Emma Reed, the power couple who has it all. Marcus, the city's golden realtor. Emma, the charming wife everyone adored for her humility. She looked at that photo and barely recognized the woman in it. The woman in the magazine was glowing, laughing, confident beside her husband. The one standing here was tired, her wrists thin, her eyes ringed with sleepless nights, her smile fading into something small and fragile. Marcus scrolled through his phone, thumbs moving quickly, grinning at something unseen. "You know what people say about us, Emma?" he muttered, not looking up. "They say I could have done better." Her chest tightened. "Better?" He looked up, finally meeting her eyes. "Someone who fits my image, someone who belongs at the top." He gestured vaguely at her dress, soft blue cotton, simple. "You're too ordinary. Your little marketing job? It drags my brand down." Emma tried to steady her voice. "Marcus, I work hard too. I help build campaigns that—" He cut her off with a laugh, cold and careless. "Campaigns? Emma, please. What I do builds empires. What you do prints flyers." Silence settled heavy between them. Outside, the early city lights blinked through the tall windows, casting soft reflections on the polished floor. Emma swallowed her pride and tried again, gently. "Marcus, we used to dream together, remember? You said my ideas inspired you." "Yeah," he said, pouring another drink despite the hour. "That was before I realized inspiration doesn't pay mortgages." She wanted to remind him that she'd supported him when he had nothing, when he sold houses door to door, when they lived in a one-room apartment, and she stayed up all night designing his first flyers. She wanted to say that every success he flaunted now was built on her quiet devotion. But instead she whispered, "You've changed." He didn't answer. He was already fixing his tie in the reflection of the oven glass. On the counter, beside the magazine, sat a golden pen, old-fashioned, engraved with her late mother's initials. Her mother had given it to her before she passed, saying, "Use it only to sign things that matter." Marcus noticed her holding it and scoffed. "Still keeping that antique junk around? You really can't let go of the past, can you?" Emma ran her thumb along the pen's smooth surface. "You never know what something's really worth," she said softly. He rolled his eyes, snatched his car keys, and headed toward the door. "I have an event tonight. Don't wait up." Tessa's handling the stage design. Her heart squeezed. "Tessa?" "Yeah. She's got an eye for detail," he said casually, with a half smile that lingered too long. "Tessa Moore, Emma's best friend since college." The same woman who designed their home, who shared coffee with her every Sunday, who promised, "You're like a sister to me." Emma tried to smile, but her voice was small. "Tell her I said hi." Marcus didn't reply. The door slammed, echoing through the glass and steel walls of the penthouse. The sound lingered like thunder long after he was gone. The kitchen fell into silence again, only the hum of the refrigerator, the faint city traffic below, and the rhythmic beat of her baby's kicks beneath her hand. She stood for a long time, staring at the photo of them on the magazine cover. "The power couple who has it all," she whispered bitterly. "Except peace." She touched the pen again, lifting it toward the light. "One day," she murmured, "this peace will be real." Her phone buzzed a message from Tessa. "Tessa, can't wait to see you at tonight's event. I have a surprise you'll love." Emma smiled faintly, not knowing that surprise would break her heart. Outside, the morning sun spilled through the windows, golden and deceptive. The pen glowed faintly under its light, a silent promise that what began as humiliation would one day become her redemption. That night, under shimmering chandeliers and fake smiles, Emma would see her husband laugh too freely beside her best friend, and the perfect picture of marriage would finally begin to crack. The flash of a camera exploded like lightning. Emma blinked under the harsh lights as Marcus's arm slid around her waist too tightly, too rehearsed. They stood at the entrance of the Crystal Grand Hotel, where the city's elite gathered for the annual real estate power night. To the crowd, they were still the Reeds, the perfect couple. But beneath the glimmering chandeliers, the perfection was cracking. "Smile wider," Marcus hissed through his teeth as the reporter snapped another photo. "You look tired. Don't embarrass me tonight." Emma forced a soft smile, her body trembling slightly from the heels pressing against her swollen feet. Her pregnancy glow, once gentle and radiant, was now masked by exhaustion. A familiar voice drifted from behind the crowd, silky, confident. "Marcus, over here!" Tessa Moore, Emma's best friend, glided toward them in a fitted silver gown that shimmered like moonlight. Her long hair fell in perfect waves, and her laughter echoed across the hall. She was an interior designer, famous for transforming high-end spaces, and lately, she had been spending far too much time designing Marcus's new offices. "Tessa," Emma greeted warmly, trying to ignore the tightness in her chest. "You look stunning." "Thank you, sweetheart," Tessa replied sweetly, kissing Emma's cheek before turning to Marcus. "Doesn't she look radiant tonight?" Marcus's eyes flickered over Tessa's gown before meeting Emma's. His lips curved into that familiar smirk. "She always does," he said, but his gaze lingered too long where it shouldn't. The tension was quiet but sharp. Emma's fingers tightened around her clutch, and for a brief moment, she looked away toward the banquet table, lined with crystal glasses. Her reflection in them looked small, almost fading. Margaret Reed, Marcus's mother, appeared suddenly, her perfume announcing her presence before her words did. "Emma," she said curtly, her pearl necklace gleaming. "I see you managed to fit into that dress after all." "Barely," Emma smiled politely. "Good evening, Mother Reed." "Don't call me that," Margaret corrected, her lips pursed. "It sounds old." Then, turning to Tessa, her tone softened. "My dear, you are glowing tonight. You really know how to present yourself. Such grace." Emma's heart sank as she watched Tessa blush and Marcus laugh beside his mother. They looked like the family she was being slowly pushed out of. As the speeches began, Emma sat at the end of the table, half listening as Marcus gave his thank you address. His voice was strong, confident, the voice of a man the world adored. But behind that voice, she now heard something hollow. "And to my talented collaborator, Tessa Moore," he said, glancing toward her, "your creativity has transformed my vision. Couldn't have done it without you." Applause filled the hall. Cameras flashed again. Emma's hands went cold as she noticed Tessa reach up discreetly to adjust Marcus's tie. It was intimate, too intimate. The gesture made the room spin for a moment. She pressed a hand against her belly, whispering a silent promise to her unborn child. "We'll be okay. I'll find strength, even if he takes everything else." Marcus returned to their table, leaning close to her ear. "You didn't clap," he said, his voice calm but cutting. "I did," she murmured. "Maybe not loud enough for your ego to hear." He froze for a second, eyes narrowing. Then he smiled at the crowd again, the perfect man, hiding the monster only she knew. As the night ended, Tessa slipped her arm into Marcus's. "Marcus, darling, let's review the penthouse sketches before the next event." Emma's breath caught. "Darling?" Marcus didn't even look back as they walked away together. The flash of a camera caught Emma's face one last time, the picture of calm dignity. But inside, something had broken quietly. She turned toward the grand window, the city lights blurring through her unshed tears. "If this is what love looks like," she whispered, "then I'd rather learn to live without it." Later that night, as rain began to fall, Emma would feel the first sharp wave in her stomach, the sign that her labor was coming early, long before anyone was ready, least of all Marcus. The night tore open with pain. Emma Reed's scream echoed down the empty office hallway as she dropped her pen and clutched her stomach. Papers scattered like falling snow, the ink from her spilled coffee spreading across her marketing drafts. The digital clock on the wall blinked 11:47 p.m., too late for anyone else to still be around. Her breathing quickened. Sharp, irregular contractions hit her in waves. "No, no, not now," she gasped, gripping the edge of her desk for balance. "It's too soon." Her trembling hand reached for her phone. She scrolled through her contacts and tapped Marcus. One ring, two rings. Then the call ended abruptly. She tried again this time. The call went straight to voicemail. Across the city, Marcus Reed was laughing under glittering lights at a rooftop after-party, Tessa by his side. He glanced at the ringing phone once, saw Emma's name, and smirked. "Handle it yourself," he murmured, muting the call before clinking glasses with Tessa. Inside the quiet office, Emma's world blurred. Her vision dimmed. She collapsed to her knees, sweat trickling down her temple. Just as she started to lose consciousness, a gentle but firm voice cut through the darkness. "Mrs. Reed? Oh my God, are you okay?" It was Naomi Brooks, a young intern barely out of college. Naomi had returned to retrieve her forgotten laptop and now knelt beside Emma, terrified. "You're bleeding a little. We need to get you to the hospital right now," Emma could barely whisper. "Marcus. Please call Marcus." Naomi grabbed her phone, tried calling again, and shook her head. "He's not answering." A single tear slid down Emma's cheek. She nodded weakly. Then, "Drive me." Naomi helped her up, supporting her arm as they staggered toward the elevator. Emma's legs gave out once, twice, before Naomi practically carried her into the car. Rain poured hard outside, streaking the windshield. The city lights blurred in her eyes. "Stay with me, okay?" Naomi said, one hand on the wheel, one gripping Emma's trembling fingers. "You're strong. You're gonna be okay." In that moment, Emma saw the reflection of her late mother in the window, soft, kind, full of strength. Her mother had died giving birth to her, a truth that had always haunted her. Now, as the hospital came into view, Emma whispered through clenched teeth, "Mom, don't let me die like you did." The ER doors slid open to reveal Grace Monroe, a compassionate nurse in her 40s, with steady hands and sharp eyes. Grace caught sight of Naomi helping Emma and rushed forward. "Get a wheelchair now," she ordered the staff. Grace placed her palm on Emma's shoulder, voice calm but commanding. "You're safe now. I've got you." Emma barely heard the nurse's words as another contraction ripped through her. "My husband," she whimpered. "He'll be here soon." Grace's expression softened, though doubt flickered in her eyes. "We'll call him again, sweetheart. For now, focus on breathing. You're not alone." But as the monitor beeped and her body shook, Emma realized something chilling. She was alone. The man who vowed to love her, in sickness and in health, had chosen a party over her cries. Lightning flashed outside the hospital window, thunder rumbling in the distance. Grace squeezed her hand gently. "You're strong, Emma. You're stronger than you think." Emma gasped, whispering, "He'll regret this one day." Her voice faded into the storm. Moments later, as she drifted between pain and exhaustion, the sound of heavy footsteps echoed down the hall. Marcus Reed had finally arrived, not with love or concern, but with papers in his hand and anger in his eyes. The door burst open with a violent slam. Emma jolted on the hospital bed, clutching her stomach as another contraction ripped through her body. The monitors beeped in panic. Marcus Reed strode in wearing his navy blue suit, tie loosened, his face twisted with irritation. Not fear, not concern, just annoyance. "What now, Emma?" he snapped. Do you have any idea what time it is? Grace Monroe, the nurse who had stayed by Emma's side all night, stepped forward. Sir, please, your wife is in active labor. She needs calm, not shouting. Marcus waved her off. Stay out of this. He turned to Emma. I told you not to cause a scene, but of course you love drama, don't you? Emma tried to speak between gasps. I called you because I needed you, Marcus. I'm scared. He pulled a stack of papers from his briefcase and dropped them onto the hospital tray with a cold, deliberate motion. The sound was loud, final. You can sign these now. I'm done pretending. Grace's eyes widened. What? What are those? Marcus smiled cruelly. Divorce papers. The nurse stepped in front of Emma instinctively. She's in labor. You can't be serious. Dr. Patrick Hayes, the obstetrician on call, entered just then. A calm, experienced man in his 50s, he immediately sensed the tension. Mr. Reed, I'm Dr. Hayes. Your wife's blood pressure is unstable. If you keep stressing her, you're endangering both her and the realm. Baby. Marcus gave a cold laugh. Maybe if she'd spent less time embarrassing me in public, we wouldn't be here. Emma's lip trembled. Please, Marcus, not now. I can't do this right now. Oh, you'll do it now, he said, picking up the golden pen from her bedside table, the same one she'd brought from home, her late mother's gift. Sign it before you scream again. I don't have all night. Tears filled her eyes. She stared at the pen in his hand, its golden shimmer, her mother's initials engraved on the side, and her heart broke. That pen had always meant safety, family, love. Now it was the weapon he used to destroy her with. Grace's voice rose. Sir, if you force her… Force? Marcus scoffed. She's lucky I'm even letting her sign it peacefully. Another contraction tore through Emma's body. She screamed, clutching the sheets. Dr. Hayes shouted, her cervix is dilating, she's about to deliver. Move those papers away. But Marcus stood his ground, arms folded, waiting. Through blurred vision, Emma reached for the pen. Her hands shook violently. The pain blurred everything, the lights, the voices, even her tears. She signed her name slowly, shakily, and whispered, You'll regret this one day, Marcus. Marcus snatched the papers, smirked, and stuffed them into his briefcase. We'll see about that. As he turned to leave, her body convulsed again. Doctor, she's crowning, Grace shouted. Push, Emma! Push! Marcus paused at the door, glancing back briefly. Send me a text when the baby's born. I'll have my assistant handle the hospital bill. Then he walked out, shoes clicking coldly against the tile. Emma screamed again, the sound raw and heart-wrenching. Grace held her hand, whispering, Breathe, sweetheart. He's gone. But you're still here. You can do this. A tear rolled down Emma's cheek. I'm still here. And as thunder rolled outside the prize, a hospital window, her golden pen, now lying on the floor, gleamed faintly under the harsh fluorescent light, like a quiet promise that the story wasn't over yet. Moments later, as Emma's baby's cry filled the room, the father who should have held him was nowhere to be found, and that cruel absence would soon echo across the entire city. The room erupted in chaos. Push, Emma, one more! Dr. Patrick Hayes shouted, his voice steady but urgent. Sweat soaked Emma's forehead as pain tore through her body. Grace Monroe, the nurse, wiped her face gently, whispering encouragement. You're almost there, sweetheart. Just one more push. Outside, thunder roared. Inside, the fluorescent lights flickered as the storm battered the hospital windows. Emma screamed, her voice breaking, echoing down the hallway. She gripped the rails of the bed until her knuckles turned white. Then, at last, one final, desperate push, and a sound filled the air that cut through everything. A baby's cry. High, fragile, and alive. Emma's trembling hands reached forward as Dr. Hayes lifted the small, slippery child and announced, It's a boy. His tone softened. He's strong. He's healthy. Grace wrapped the baby in a soft blue blanket and placed him gently in Emma's arms. Tears spilled freely down her cheeks as she stared at him. Tiny fingers, round cheeks, a heartbeat she could feel against her own. Hi, my little miracle, she whispered, voice trembling. You made it. For a fleeting second, she forgot everything. The betrayal, the papers, the pain. There was only love, raw and pure. But the peace didn't last. Doctor, Hayes cleared his throat softly. Has your husband returned, Mrs. Reed? He should see his son. Emma's expression fell. He left. Grace's brows knitted. Left? He said to text him. When the baby's born. The nurse and doctor exchanged a look, a silent, heavy one. Grace muttered under her breath, "Some men don't deserve good women." Emma held the baby closer, trying to smile through her tears. "He'll come," she whispered, though her voice lacked conviction. "He has to." Hours passed. The storm outside eased, but the quiet that replaced it was heavier. The hallway lights dimmed for the night shift. Still, Marcus never came. No flowers, no message, no knock on the door. Instead, the sound of hospital staff whispering drifted in from the corridor. Emma caught bits of it, her name, his name, words like divorce and papers. Someone had leaked what happened. The humiliation was spreading. Grace came in with a tray of food, her eyes kind but firm. "Eat something. You need strength. For him." Emma nodded weakly. She tried to lift the spoon, but her hand trembled. Grace noticed and set the tray aside, sitting at the edge of the bed. "You're not alone, you hear me? I'll help you get back on your feet." Emma looked up, her eyes tired but grateful. "Thank you, Grace. I don't even know where to start." The nurse smiled faintly. "Start by breathing. The rest will follow." Emma looked down at her baby again, tracing the curve of his tiny nose. "I'll protect you," she whispered, "even if I have to do it alone." Just then, her phone buzzed. Her heart leapt. Marcus? No. It was a text from Tessa Moore. "Congratulations, darling. Marcus and I just landed a big deal tonight. You should be proud of him." Emma stared at the screen until the letters blurred through her tears. She turned off the phone, pressed her lips against her son's forehead, and whispered, "We're done with him." Lightning flashed one last time through the window, illuminating the golden pen lying on the floor beneath the bed, the same one Marcus had forced into her hand hours earlier. Grace bent down, picked it up, and placed it gently on Emma's tray. "Keep it close," she said softly. "You never know when something small can change everything." Emma nodded slowly, her gaze fixed on the pen's gleam. Somewhere deep inside her, the first spark of resolve flickered. By morning, when Emma tried to settle the hospital bill, the cruel world outside would come crashing in because Marcus's betrayal wasn't done humiliating her yet. The sound of cameras clicking filled the hospital lobby. Emma Reed stood weakly at the billing counter, cradling her newborn son in her arms. Her hospital gown hung loosely, her face pale from exhaustion. Behind her, the line of impatient patients and nurses whispered, their eyes darting between her and the clerk. I just need a few more days," Emma pleaded softly. "My husband was supposed to handle the payment." The young clerk looked apologetic. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but the file shows your husband declined all financial responsibility this morning," his assistant said. She paused awkwardly. "You're no longer on his insurance." Emma froze. Her fingers gripped the counter as her knees went weak. What?" Before the clerk could respond, a voice rose from across the lobby, sharp, amused. "Oh my God, that's her! That's Marcus Reed's wife, the one he divorced in labor." Linda Shaw, Emma's nosy neighbor, stood there holding her phone high, already recording. "Smile for the camera, honey," Linda said cruelly. "You're trending right now. The whole neighborhood knows what happened." The room filled with laughter and whispers. Emma's ears buzzed, her cheeks burned. Grace Monroe, the nurse who had stayed by her side since the delivery, stepped forward protectively. "That's enough," she snapped. "Have you no shame? This woman just gave birth alone." But the damage was done. Linda tilted her phone to show Emma what she meant. On the screen flashed a viral post, Marcus Reed and Tessa Moore posing at a rooftop party, champagne glasses raised. The caption read, "Finally free, starting fresh with the woman who truly understands me." Emma's heart stopped. The photo had been posted the same night she delivered. While she screamed in pain, he celebrated his freedom with her best friend. Gasps rippled through the lobby. Even the clerk looked disgusted now. Grace put an arm around Emma, guiding her toward a bench. "Sit, dear. Don't look at that." But Emma couldn't tear her eyes away. The betrayal was too sharp, too deep. The golden pen, her mother's pen, lay in her bag, glinting faintly in the light. The very pen that had signed her humiliation. A soft coo from her baby pulled her back to reality. She looked down at his tiny face, his eyelids fluttering peacefully despite the chaos around them. "I'm sorry, my love," she whispered. I didn't protect you from this. Grace knelt beside her. You did everything right, Emma. What he did says everything about him, not you. Emma took a shaky breath, trying to gather her strength. I can't stay here. I can't go home. He owns the house, the accounts. Grace's voice softened. Then come with me. I live near the staff quarters. It's small, but it's safe. Tears welled in Emma's eyes. You'd do that for me? Grace smiled faintly. For you and for that little one. You both deserve better. Emma nodded slowly. Then that's where we'll start. As they walked out of the hospital, Linda's laughter echoed behind them, but Emma didn't look back. The golden pen in her bag felt heavier now, almost alive. Grace held open the door as morning sunlight spilled in. A new day, she said softly. Emma looked out at the bright horizon and whispered, maybe one day, I'll make the world see who he truly is. The next morning, a knock would sound at Grace's small apartment door, bringing not shame, but a letter that would change Emma's life forever. The loud knock came just after sunrise. Emma jerked awake on the worn couch of Grace Monroe's small apartment, her baby, sleeping against her chest. For a brief second, she panicked, thinking Marcus had come to drag her back into humiliation. But then Grace's calm voice came from the kitchen. It's okay, sweetheart. I'll get it. The door opened to reveal a young woman in a navy blazer holding a brown envelope. Her voice was polite, steady. Good morning. I'm looking for Mrs. Emma Reed. Grace turned. That's her, she said, motioning toward the couch. Emma sat up slowly, her heart racing. Who are you? The woman stepped forward and handed her the envelope. My name's Clara Benson, estate attorney. I'm here on behalf of Judge Henry Gray. Emma frowned. The name sounded distant yet familiar. Judge Gray? He was my mother's old friend, wasn't he? Clara nodded gently. More than that, he was your godfather. He passed away 2 weeks ago, but before his death, he left a sealed letter for you. He wanted it delivered once you became a mother. Emma's breath caught. Once I became a mother, she repeated softly, staring at her sleeping son. That's now. Her fingers trembled as she broke the wax seal and unfolded the letter. Inside, Judge Gray's neat handwriting filled the page. My dear Emma, if you're reading this, life has tested you the way it once tested your mother. I made a promise to protect you should this world ever turn cruel. Enclosed are documents to an inheritance, $50 million left in your name by your late mother. Under one condition, you must stand on your own feet for 1 full year before accessing it. Build something honest, something worthy of your pain. Only then will the trust be unlocked. The paper slipped from her fingers as tears welled in her eyes. Grace rushed over. Emma, what is it? She handed her the letter silently. Grace read quickly, then gasped. 50 million? Clara smiled warmly. Yes, it's real. I'm your legal guardian for the trust. My firm will manage it until you meet the condition. Emma stared at the documents in disbelief. All this time, my mother left something like this? Why didn't anyone tell me? Clara's tone softened. Your godfather believed in strength, not dependency. He said you'd find this only when you needed it most. The golden pen lay beside the letter on the table. Emma picked it up slowly, tracing her mother's initials. She knew, she whispered. She knew I'd fall, and she left me the means to rise. Grace smiled proudly. Then rise you will, sweetheart. This isn't an ending, it's the beginning. Naomi Brooks, the kind intern who'd driven her to the hospital, appeared in the doorway. I brought breakfast, she said shyly, before noticing the papers. Is everything okay? Emma looked up at both women, her unexpected allies. Better than okay, she said softly. I think my mother just gave me a second chance. The baby stirred, cooing gently in her arms. Emma kissed his forehead, whispering, You'll never need him. We'll build our own world. The women shared a quiet moment of hope. Then Clara added, But be careful, Emma. News like this spreads fast. If your ex-husband finds out, he'll come after it. Emma's expression hardened, her fingers tightening around the golden pen. Then I'll make sure he never sees a cent. Outside, across town, Marcus Reed scrolled through his phone, unaware that the woman he had destroyed was already rising and that her quiet rebuilding would soon shake his empire to its core. Rain hammered against the window like a steady drumbeat. Inside Grace Monroe's small apartment, Emma Reed sat at a makeshift desk, a stack of cardboard boxes covered by a thin sheet. Her baby slept in a bassinet beside her, the sound of his soft breathing the only peace in her long nights. Her laptop screen glowed with the unfinished draft of a marketing pitch. The header read, Aurora Moms Initiative, Empowering Single Mothers Through Work. Another rejection? Grace asked gently from the doorway, carrying a cup of tea. Emma sighed, rubbing her temple. Fifth one this week. They like my idea, but not my background. Too much drama attached to your name, they said. Grace set the tea beside her. They'll regret that one day. Emma smiled faintly. I don't want revenge, Grace. I just want to prove I can stand on my own. She glanced down at the golden pen resting beside the laptop, her mother's pen. She believed in building, not begging. Grace's phone buzzed on the counter. She checked the caller ID and grinned. It's Naomi. Moments later, Naomi Brooks burst in, dripping wet from the rain but smiling wide. Emma, guess what? The city's small business grant just opened for women-led startups. They're looking for community-focused ideas. Your project fits perfectly. Emma's eyes lit up. Are you serious? Naomi nodded eagerly. Yes, and my friend in the council office said they're especially interested in programs that support mothers. You'd need a legal advisor and a basic prototype plan, but I can help with that, came a firm, calm voice from behind Naomi. Clara Benson, the estate lawyer, stepped in holding a thick folder. The one-year clause in your trust doesn't forbid you from earning, it forbids dependency. This venture qualifies. If you build it ethically, your inheritance will unlock automatically when the year ends. Emma blinked. You mean, I can build Aurora Moms now? Clara nodded. With the right guidance. Something inside Emma shifted a quiet fire, a rebirth. Then let's do it. The days that followed turned into weeks of long nights, brainstorming sessions and small victories. Emma, Naomi, and Grace worked tirelessly designing logos, building networks, writing proposals. They filmed testimonials of struggling mothers, turning pain into purpose. Soon, their first campaign, No Mother Left Behind, went viral. Donations began to trickle in. Then came a call from a retired investor impressed by their initiative. I believe in what you're doing. Let's talk about expansion. For the first time since the hospital, Emma smiled without pain. She looked around the small apartment now filled with sketches, laptops, and laughter, and whispered, We're doing it, Mom. We're really doing it. Late that night, she sat alone by the window, baby in her arms, watching city lights flicker below. You'll grow up knowing love, not pity, she whispered. Then her phone buzzed a news alert. Marcus Reed's company faces allegations of misused funds. Rival developer Victor Cross declines to comment. Emma's breath caught. She knew that name, Victor Cross, the same man who once tried to recruit Marcus into risky deals. Grace stepped into the room, eyes narrowing at the headline. Seems karma's working overtime. Emma didn't smile. She only stared out the window, calm and steady. No, she said quietly. It's just the beginning. Across town, Marcus Reed sat in his glass office, unaware that one of his closest allies was about to betray him, and that the rising company catching headlines under the name Aurora Moms was run by the wife he had thrown away. The crash of a glass paperweight against the wall startled everyone in the boardroom. Who leaked those numbers? Marcus Reed barked, his face red with fury. His once polished charm had turned to something feral. He slammed his palm on the table, scattering papers. I want names, now. The senior managers sat frozen, eyes darting toward Trevor Holt, his longtime business partner and supposed friend. Trevor leaned back in his chair, pretending calm. Marcus, relax. The press always exaggerates. One bad headline doesn't ruin an empire. But Marcus wasn't fooled. His eyes narrowed. Don't play me, Trevor. Those numbers, those missing funds, only a handful of people had access. And I know it wasn't me. Trevor chuckled dryly, sipping his coffee. Maybe you should ask your new assistant CEO. You spend more time parading Tessa Moore around than running the company. Marcus stiffened. Watch your mouth. Across the room, Tessa Moore, once Emma's best friend, now Marcus's mistress, sat with crossed legs, her silver tablet glowing in her lap. Gentlemen, she purred, let's stay civil. We're all on the same team here. Trevor smirked. Oh, sure. Until one of us ends up in jail for fraud. The air turned sharp. Marcus glared at him, veins pulsing in his temples. You think I'd risk my legacy for pennies? Trevor leaned forward. Not for pennies, maybe for pride. Or maybe because you're too busy chasing headlines to notice your empire's falling apart. Silence fell. Outside the tall windows, rain streaked down the glass. The city skyline blurred and gray. Marcus finally broke the silence. Leave. All of you. When the others were gone, only Tessa remained. She walked over to him, her tone shifting from professional to sugar-sweet. You're losing control, darling. Investors are whispering. He turned toward her. And what do you suggest, Tessa? Another event? Another photo shoot? She smiled, adjusting his tie. Actually, yes. Public image matters. You need a distraction, something that reminds them who you are. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. I'll think about it. Her eyes gleamed. Or let me handle it. I've been talking to Victor Cross, you remember him, right? The developer who's been buying up your old clients? He could be a valuable partner. Marcus froze. Victor Cross? His tone hardened. I told you to stay away from him. Tessa shrugged innocently. Relax. It's just business. But something in her voice betrayed her. Marcus knew that tone. It was the same tone Emma once used when hiding hurt. Except now, it hid betrayal. As Tessa left the room, her phone buzzed. The screen flashed. Message from Victor Cross. Ready to move on, Reed? Meanwhile, on Marcus's desk, a forgotten newspaper lay open. The front page headline read, Aurora Moms Initiative gains citywide support. Founder remains anonymous. Marcus glanced at it briefly, uninterested. Another charity project, he muttered. They come and go. He didn't notice the small photo beside the headline, a blurred image of a woman speaking at a podium, holding a golden pen as she signed a donation partnership. Her face was turned slightly, but the outline was unmistakable. Emma Reed, the wife he had left in labor. He shoved the paper aside, oblivious to the storm gathering around him. Across town, in a quiet office lit by soft lamps, Emma smiled gently as Naomi handed her a copy of the same article. It's working, Naomi said. They're listening. Emma nodded. Good. Let's keep building quietly. Noise belongs to them, results belong to us. But within days, that quiet success would ripple back to Marcus's world because the very rival Tessa trusted, Victor Cross, was about to expose Marcus's darkest secret to the public, and the fall of his empire would begin. The news hit like a lightning strike. Breaking. Reed Real Estate under investigation for financial misconduct. The reporter's voice echoed through every major network. Screens across the city lit up with Marcus Reed's face, no longer the smiling tycoon, but a man cornered. In his glass office, Marcus stared in disbelief at the live broadcast. This is a setup, he muttered. It has to be. Across the desk, Marcus Hale, a calm and methodical forensic auditor hired by investors, flipped through a folder. Sir, I wish it were, but the transactions don't lie. Someone rerouted company funds through 3 offshore accounts. All in your name. Marcus slammed his fist on the desk. I didn't move that money. Someone forged my authorization. Hale adjusted his glasses. We traced the signatures. Same pen pressure, same initials. It's either you or someone who knows how to imitate you perfectly. Marcus froze. His mind flashed back to nights when Tessa sat on his lap in the office, signing checks on his behalf to help him. He'd laughed back then, thinking she was proving loyalty. Now, he felt sick. Who else knows about this? He asked. Detective Aaron Blake, Financial Crimes Division, Hale replied. He's been assigned to investigate. I suggest full cooperation. Marcus's jaw tightened. You're suggesting I hand my empire over to a detective? I'm suggesting, Hale said evenly, that if you don't, you might lose it entirely. At that same moment, Tessa Moore stepped into the room, heels clicking. Marcus, darling, I just saw the news. You should fire your PR team. They're letting the press eat you alive. He turned on her. Did you forge my authorization? Her expression didn't flicker. What are you talking about? The offshore transfers, he snapped. Who else had access to my digital signature? Tessa laughed softly, almost pitying him. Oh, Marcus, you always think everyone's out to get you. Before he could respond, Hale's assistant, Mia Foster, entered, holding a printed email. Sir, you need to see this. It's from the rival developer, Victor Cross. Marcus snatched the page. The message read, "Tell Marcus Reed I warned him not to play with other people's money. His time is up. V.C." Marcus's hands trembled. "Victor, he's behind this." Hale shook his head. "Victor Cross doesn't fake signatures. He exposes them. And right now, he's talking to the press." Tessa's smile faded. "You're not serious." But Hale's voice was steady. "Within hours, this company's accounts will be frozen pending investigation. I suggest you prepare for the worst." The color drained from Tessa's face. She turned to Marcus. "You'll fix this, right? Say something." Marcus sank into his chair, the reality settling like lead in his stomach. For years, he'd mocked Emma for being weak. But now, it was he who sat helpless, watching his empire crumble piece by piece. Outside the office window, cameras flashed. Reporters gathered below, shouting his name. Marcus Hale closed his folder. "Detective Blake will arrive tomorrow for questioning. I recommend you cooperate, Mr. Reed." As the door shut behind him, Marcus stared at the empty whiskey glass on his desk, his old comfort, now useless. "Everything I built," he whispered, his voice breaking. "Gone." Tessa placed a trembling hand on his shoulder, her charm cracking. "Marcus, maybe we should disappear for a while." He looked up slowly, eyes filled with rage. "Don't you dare leave me, Tessa." But as he spoke, her phone lit up behind his back with a message that made her blood run cold. "Meet me tonight. We move forward without him. Victor Cross." By the next night, the gala lights would shine again, but this time, not for Marcus's success. For among the crowd would stand the woman he once destroyed, reborn and radiant, ready to deliver justice before the world. The ballroom glittered with gold and glass. Camera flashes strobed as reporters crowded near the grand stage of the city charity gala for mothers in need. The air buzzed with chatter, socialites, investors, journalists all dressed in silk and ambition. Yet the name on everyone's lips was one they didn't yet know belonged to Emma Reed. A voice boomed over the microphone. "Please welcome the founder of the Aurora Moms Foundation, the woman changing lives across the city." Applause thundered. And then, under the soft glow of crystal chandeliers, Emma stepped onto the stage. She wore an index, elegant white gown, simple yet commanding. Her once fragile frame now carried quiet power. The golden pen, her mother's keepsake, glittered in her hand as she signed the evening's sponsorship documents before taking the mic. "Good evening," she began, her voice calm and steady. "When mothers are abandoned, society calls it survival. But when they rise again, we call it strength. Tonight, we celebrate that strength." The crowd rose to its feet, clapping, but in the back of the room, a new commotion stirred. Marcus Reed had arrived uninvited. His face was pale, his eyes sunken from sleepless nights. Cameras swiveled toward him like vultures sensing blood. "Isn't that Marcus Reed?" someone whispered. "The one under investigation?" He ignored them, forcing a smile as he moved closer to the stage. Behind him trailed Tessa Moore, draped in a gown far too loud for the moment, her nervous eyes darting toward every camera flash. From the front row, Grace Monroe, Naomi Brooks, and Clara Benson exchanged sharp looks. Grace whispered, "He shouldn't be here." Emma's gaze fell upon him mid-speech. For a second, the room blurred the hospital walls, the divorce papers, the laughter that had haunted her, but then she inhaled slowly and straightened. "Some of you may not know," she continued, her tone firm but serene, "that this foundation began after I was left with nothing but a child and a promise. A promise that I would never let another mother feel as helpless as I once did." Gasps rippled through the crowd as the connection clicked. Phones lifted, cameras zoomed. Marcus froze. "That can't be," he whispered. "Emma?" She met his eyes steady, unshaken. "Yes, Marcus, it's me." The room erupted with whispers. His wife? The same Emma Reed? Marcus took an unsteady step forward. "We need to talk," he hissed under his breath. But before he could reach her, Detective Aaron Blake appeared beside the stage, flanked by officers. His badge flashed under the lights. "Marcus Reed," he announced, voice echoing. "You're under arrest for financial fraud and forgery." Reporters surged forward. Cameras clicked wildly as Marcus's world finally collapsed in public. Tessa's face drained of color. She turned to slip away but was stopped by Victor Cross, her secret partner, waiting by the exit with a cold smirk. "Running somewhere, darling?" he asked quietly. "The press would love your side of the story." As officers cuffed Marcus, his eyes locked on Emma again, this time with desperation, not anger. "Please," he whispered, "help me." Emma didn't move. Her voice was calm, but her words struck like lightning. "The woman you mocked in labor no longer exists." The ballroom fell silent as Marcus was led out through flashing lights. Emma turned back to the audience, raised the golden pen, and smiled faintly. "Now, let's continue the work that truly matters." But outside, under those same flashing cameras, Marcus would collapse, his empire gone, his pride shattered, and the next day's headlines would make his downfall complete. Flashing cameras lit up the night as Marcus Reed stumbled out of the ballroom, handcuffed and sweating under the weight of his ruined pride. Reporters crowded him like a pack of wolves, microphones thrust in his face. "Mr. Reed, is it true you falsified company accounts? Did your mistress help you launder funds? Do you regret divorcing your wife during labor?" Each question stabbed deeper than the last. Marcus's lips trembled, his once slick hair now clinging to his forehead. "No comment," he mumbled hoarsely, shielding his face. The bright lights blurred, and suddenly his knees buckled. "Call an ambulance!" someone shouted. He collapsed onto the red carpet, gasping, his vision spinning. Detective Aaron Blake crouched beside him, keeping his tone professional but low. "Easy, Reed. You're not dying, you're just out of excuses." Marcus blinked through dizziness. "This isn't how it was supposed to end," he rasped. Minutes later, paramedics arrived, pushing reporters back. They loaded him onto a stretcher as the crowd whispered. Some pitied him, others smirked. The Golden Boy realtor who once graced magazine covers was now just another scandal headline. Inside the ambulance, Marcus stared blankly at the ceiling, memories crashing through his mind. The hospital, Emma's tears, the golden pen. For the first time, guilt pierced through his arrogance. What have I done? Meanwhile, across the ballroom foyer, chaos had turned to murmurs. Tessa Moore stood frozen, mascara streaking down her cheeks. Her phone buzzed again, another message from Victor Cross. "We're done, Tessa. You served your purpose. Enjoy the headlines." Her throat tightened. She turned toward the glass doors just in time to see Marcus being wheeled away, surrounded by flashing lights. "Marcus!" she cried, heels clacking against the floor as she ran after him. But by the time she reached the entrance, the ambulance was gone. Victor appeared behind her, calm and smiling. "Careful, darling," he said. "Cameras don't love desperate women." Tessa spun toward him, eyes wild. "You used me, you and your stupid schemes." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "And you used him. We're not so different. But you see Emma Reed? She built something real. You built a lie." Her hand trembled as she slapped him hard across the face. His smirk didn't fade. "You'll regret that," she whispered. "I already don't," he replied, walking away. As the chaos outside died down, the ballroom inside glowed softly again. Emma stood near the stage, silent, watching the reporters disperse through the glass doors. Grace Monroe came beside her, touching her arm. "It's over, sweetheart." Emma shook her head. "No, justice has only begun." She looked at the predators, cameras still flickering outside, then down at the golden pen resting in her hand. "He mocked me when I was powerless," she murmured. "Now the world knows what true power looks like." Naomi approached with her phone. "The news is everywhere, Emma. The city's calling you an inspiration. They want interviews." Emma smiled faintly. "Let's not rush. Tomorrow we'll speak, but not for revenge, for hope." She turned back to the stage, where her foundation's banner still hung proudly. Aurora Moms, because strength has a name. Outside, thunder rumbled again, distant but steady like a warning. The next morning in a packed courtroom, Emma would face Marcus one final time, not as his wife, but as the woman he tried to destroy, and the law would now defend. "Court is now in session." The gavel struck hard, echoing across the packed courtroom. The noise died instantly. Reporters filled the back rows, cameras lined the doors, and whispers rippled through the crowd. All eyes turned to the front. Judge Amelia Torres, stern and sharp-eyed, presided over the case. On the right sat Emma Reed, calm and poised in a navy dress, her hands folded neatly over her file. Beside her was Clara Benson, her lawyer, and Marcus Hale, the forensic auditor whose findings had unraveled everything. On the other side sat Marcus Reed, pale and gaunt, his once proud posture gone. His wrists shook slightly as he flipped through his lawyer's papers. The judge's voice cut through the tension. "Mr. Reed, you stand accused of fraud, forgery, and concealment of assets. You also face a civil claim for emotional and financial harm against Mrs. Reed. How do you plead?" Marcus's lips parted, but no words came. His attorney answered for him. "Not guilty, Your Honor." Clara rose gracefully. "Then allow us to begin." The first to testify was Marcus Hale, the quiet but unyielding auditor. He spoke with precision. Over 18 months, $6.7 million was moved from the company accounts into private ones under forged signatures. We traced each transfer and verified that the authorization keys came directly from Mr. Reed's personal logins. Marcus clenched his fists. "Lies! I was set up!" Clara turned a calm gaze on him. "By whom, Mr. Reed? Your mistress? Your rival? Or perhaps by the wife you humiliated while she was giving birth?" The room fell silent. Marcus looked down. Next, Detective Aaron Blake took the stand. "We recovered voice recordings and emails confirming collusion between Mr. Reed and Miss Tessa Moore to defraud investors. Miss Moore has since confessed her involvement in exchange for immunity." The audience gasped. Marcus's lawyer froze. What?" Marcus whispered. The detective continued. "She also confirmed the divorce papers were filed while Mrs. Reed was in labor, an act meant to secure sole control of their joint assets before the trust could mature." Emma's eyes closed briefly, but not from pain this time. It was release. Finally, Clara called her client. Emma walked to the stand, steady as ever. The judge leaned forward. "Mrs. Reed, do you wish to say anything before sentencing?" Emma's voice was soft, but it carried across the room. "Your Honor, I don't seek vengeance. I only seek closure. I want my son to grow up in a world where cruelty doesn't win." A hush fell. Judge Torres adjusted her glasses. "This court commends your dignity, Mrs. Reed. Mr. Reed, the evidence against you is overwhelming. You are hereby sentenced to 10 years for fraud and ordered to forfeit all remaining assets to the Aurora Moms Foundation. Custody of the child remains with Mrs. Reed." Marcus's head dropped, his voice cracked. "Emma, please. I've lost everything. Don't take my son, too." She looked at him for a long moment, eyes glistening but firm. "You already did that yourself." The gavel struck. Cameras flashed. The courtroom erupted. Clara placed a gentle hand on Emma's shoulder. "It's over," she whispered. But Emma looked toward the golden pen lying on the table, the same one that had once signed her pain, now part of her justice. "No," she murmured. "It's only just beginning." That afternoon, as Emma prepared to sign her foundation's expansion papers with that same golden pen, she wouldn't know the moment would circle back to where it all began, marking her rebirth in full. The sound of camera shutters filled the glass-walled boardroom like rainfall. Reporters leaned forward, eager, as flashbulbs reflected off the polished table where Emma Reed sat calm, composed, radiant. Before her lay a single white folder stamped in gold. Aurora Moms Foundation National Expansion Agreement. It was the same date, 1 year to the day, since she had been forced to sign her divorce papers in a hospital bed. Now, she sat at the head of the table she built herself. "Mrs. Reed," said Clara Benson, her loyal lawyer and friend, her tone proud. "The entire country will see this live. Are you ready?" Emma smiled softly. "I've been ready since the day they told me I couldn't stand again." The golden pen gleamed beside the document. That same pen, the one Marcus had shoved into her trembling hand during labor, now waited peacefully in the sunlight. The circle had closed. Grace Monroe stood at the back with folded arms, eyes wet with pride. Naomi Brooks, now her personal assistant, adjusted the microphone for the press conference. "Everything's set, Mrs. Reed." Emma nodded, took the pen, and signed with steady grace. The smooth glide of ink across paper felt like freedom itself. Applause erupted. She rose to speak, her voice clear and warm. "A year ago, I was called weak. I was told I had nothing. But strength," she paused, eyes sweeping the room, "isn't loud. It's the voice that refuses to die, even when everything else does." The audience stood, applauding louder now. "Grace, clapped hardest, whispering, "That's my girl." Emma continued. Aurora moms began in a small apartment with one child's cry and one woman's hope. Today it belongs to every mother who was ever told she wasn't enough. Tears streamed freely now, both hers and the audience's. Then she reached for her little boy, now toddling toward her from Grace's arms. He giggled, stretching his small hands toward the pen. Emma knelt beside him, letting him hold it. "This pen once signed my pain," she whispered for the cameras to hear. "But today, it signs my peace." The crowd erupted again, camera flashes bathing them in gold. Meanwhile, across the city, inside a quiet correctional facility, Marcus Reed sat on a narrow bed, staring at a newspaper folded neatly beside him. The headline read, "Emma Reed expands $50M Foundation nationwide." Below the photo was a picture of her smiling, holding the golden pen. For a long moment, Marcus didn't move. Then he whispered, almost reverently, "You won, Emma. You really did." He folded the paper carefully, pressing his forehead against it as a tear rolled down his cheek. Back at the boardroom, the sun broke through the clouds, washing the room in light. Emma looked out the window at the city below, the same city that once laughed at her and smiled. Naomi touched her arm. "What now, Mrs. Reed?" Emma turned, serene and certain. "Now," she said, "we help others rebuild. Because healing means nothing if it stops with you." She lifted her son into her arms. He laughed, clutching the pen, sunlight dancing on its golden tip. As the press clapped once more, Emma glanced toward the sky and whispered, "Thank you, Mom. We made it." The camera flash went off one last time, capturing not a broken woman, but a legend reborn. The end.